Let's make a Christmas tree. I have my fabric tubes all sewn up. I am using the full length of a jelly roll strip, so these are 44 inches long, and I have added batting to them. So inside them, I just have the fabric strip and then a piece of batting, and I fold them like I do when I'm making like the jelly roll rugs. Next, I need to create a panel, so like a little rectangle rug that I can cut my shapes out of. And I'm sewing them together, and as you can see, I'm just letting them glide. I'm using a walking foot, and I really don't need to push or press really hard when these are coming together. And you want those tubes just to sit next to each other. I am using a zigzag stitch. I like using the settings 5 and 2.5 on my machine, but you can use what you would like and what works best for you. It's totally fine too. Now, when making these panels, it is best to do them in little sections. So I'm working in sections of 4, and I put this right here at the end where my machine comes off. See where it connects right here? It's just a canvas, but like a book or anything flat would work well too. And the reason why I'm doing that is it's giving my small little section here a guide to run against. So when it's coming off the machine in the back there, I had noticed that it tends to get and wants to curve and bend. And with this right here, it helps keep it straight. When making a rectangle rug, it is the hardest part is to keep these strips straight, especially the longer they get. And with these being 44 inches long, it tends to want to just slide and shift at the ends. So doing this, I have found, has helped me a lot every single time now that I've made these rectangle rugs. So looking at it from up here, you can see how it is. It's using that over there on the left to help keep it straight. Now that I have all the little sections sewn together, I'm going to sew those all together too. Now I wanted to show you that not always are they completely straight when I do them. You can see how there's a little bit of a bend up here. So all I do when that happens is I go in and I usually take my left hand and use my right hand to shift the fabric the opposite way. Because these are zigzag stitched together, there's a little bit of a give. So if you just tug in the other direction or even need to iron it down, that will help when you're doing these. When they're straight, then you're going to have a straight rug. So you want to do that before you start sewing these little sections together. So for the size of this, I am using 15 strips, 15 tubes here that I created for my panel. Again, you can see how I'm sewing it and how I'm not pushing that fabric. You don't want to push it. It's going to make your stitches uneven. It's going to mess with your tension. You just want to try to help guide it, keep it straight, keep that right in between the feet nice and even so you're getting the stitches on both sides, connecting both of those little small sections together. I go ahead and sew all of the little sections together until I have one large panel that has 15 total strips or tubes. They're finished tubes together. And here's what it looks like. It's almost done. I'm putting the last section together here. It gets a little bit more difficult as it gets larger to get that fabric to go, but we can get it done. When I saw this green fabric, I knew I wanted to make the tree with it for the door hanger idea. I've really enjoyed making these fun door hangers out of these jelly roll creations. I just find it so fun and fascinating to do something different with them besides just the rugs, you know? And I'm so glad that you guys are here for it too and you're loving it too. I love seeing your guys' creations, like the snowmen too. It just makes me so happy seeing all your guys' creations too. Okay, so I have my panel already, and you can see right up here that it's not completely straight. All I like to do is I just go in and I give it a little bit of a tug to fluff out the material a little, just to get it more straight and even. I find that works well for me, just a little tug here and there. Whoops, I do have a hole. See, this does happen, and I'm going to show you what I do. When I get these holes, I just put a clip in it here to remind me to go back over it. Essentially, I always like to rip it out right when I see it, but that doesn't always happen. So you can see here the zigzag stitch, I didn't pay attention and it slid off just a little bit, and that's where we get the little holes. It's not too much of a big deal, but it just drives me nuts. And so what I do is I go back about 5, 6, stitches, however many you want to, and I'm going to start and just stitch over it and get that hole closed. Now, depending on what kind of thread you use, it may be more noticeable. When I was doing a different kind of green with like a dark green, and I always like to use white thread. I know that's weird, but I like to see it. So what I had to do, I had to rip the whole row back out and then just sew it all back down because I didn't want that overlapping stitching. So you're just going to want to go back over it, and all I do is I go in and I back stitch, or I do on my machine I have a knotting button. I go in and I do that, but I want to make sure that you go back a little bit and see how you can hardly tell where I did it because of the pattern of the fabric and the stitching. That's all I do just to close it up. I do this on all my rugs too. Now to the fun part, cutting out the panels. Okay, so I do have the pattern on my website, christyshandmadecreations.com, with the printable templates that you can use to cut out for these. So I had to create basically like some triangle shapes, obviously not all triangle, but that's what I had to work out and figure out and did all that. And I was excited. I got it to the shape that I wanted it, and I'm using those, and I'm going to go along here and I'm going to place them so you can see exactly how I do that. And that is where I'm going to cut out my shapes for my tree. And what I'm doing is I'm lining them up so that way I'm not cutting in half of one of the tubes. It's going to be where one of the stitches are. I made it so that it should line up with that. So that's what you're wanting to look for when you're doing that. And I'm going to show you right here. So here's what I mean. I have it lined up, and you can see right here, you want it to line up right where the stitches are. You want it to be like that, so you're not cutting a tube in half. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to take the stitches out right there, and then I'm going to trim the edges. And that's what my bottom shape looks like. I have all three shapes here ready. And now I have to sew them all together. These are my scraps that I have left over. So if you use a full jelly roll, this is what you're going to have left over, or you can use the measurements and cut them shorter to match that I have in my pattern. Right here, I'm going to make some little Christmas tree ornaments with the leftover fabric, I think. I just like coming up with fun, creative ways, having the leftover pieces, and I find it easier when I don't have to trim my material before adding the batting. So here is what the tree looks like, and now I have to go in and I'm going to stitch around the edges here where I cut just to finish it and have it so that it's not broken up after I had cut it. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just going in and adding a simple straight stitch down the edge. What happens is, you cut that material and you have all those broken ends from the stitching and stuff. So I have come to just sew these up just to keep them nice and tight. Even though I'm going to go in and add binding, I just like them to be a little bit more secure. So next, after that, I go in and I'm just doing my zigzag stitch again, and I'm connecting the three pieces, the three tiers of this Christmas tree here together. So that's what I'm doing here. Now you're going to want to line them up so they're kind of in the middle. And I think it's kind of funny. So I don't know why I have such a weird thing with measuring, but I do. So I'm just weird with it. And I don't know. I've always had a problem with numbers. It's just my brain just sees them and is like, no. So I'm going to show you what I do. I do this all the time with my things that I'm doing. Even when I painted, I use like an object or like my paintbrush or something odd. And what I do is I go in. I'm waiting for the video to show up. Let's see. See, that's what it looks like. Oh, does it look like it's in slow motion? That's funny. I'm going to show you how I roll it up here. Just roll it up like that to add it. Honestly, I think now that I'm watching this, I must have videotaped this in slow motion. That's why the light is kind of flickering. I'm sorry, you guys. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. And so at least I actually videotaped it, because often I go to do these things and I can't find a video. I never pressed record. Okay, here we are. This is what I'm talking about, trying to line it up. So I'm lining it up, and I'm such a visual person, so I'm just like, this looks good to me, Where essentially you'd probably want to measure this out. Look, I grab something next to me. This is what I always do, and I'm like, okay, it goes right here, and then to the end of here, and then I'm going to go over here to the other side, and I'm going to see if it matches, and then adjust from there. So I don't know if anybody else does this, but I just find it funny, like when I go to do it. And I was videotaping, and I'm like, I really should have gotten my measuring tape out and done it that way. But then I thought, whatever, I'm just going to show you guys my weird, quirky kind of things that I do. And maybe some of you guys do it too. I don't know. But I do know that this slow motion is driving me nuts. I'm so sorry, you guys. So let's see. I'm going to finish sewing it up here, and we'll go over what the next step is. All right, now for the favorite part. Yeah, right. I don't know. Binding is not fun. So I'm using the full jelly roll strip for the binding, and what I did was cut it in half so that I have a thinner edge, which is a pain. It is harder to work with, but I just like the visual, the look of it better. So what I'm doing is I'm making my own binding myself, and I'm just folding the edges from the outside into the middle, and then I'm using my iron and I'm just ironing that down. And I'm going to do that for the whole entire strip, and then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to fold it in half. So here's what it looks like, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And that's giving me that little edge that's going to go around on both sides of the cut ends, edges on my tree. So here's what that looks like, and you can see how it's just like a little bit of a flat, folded flap here. So here's what I'm doing next. I'm clipping it down. I give myself a little bit of room so I can tuck this end in when I go to sew it so that it's not the cut end, it's just folded just like this. And what I'm doing is I'm putting the print side down, and then you can see here that I'm using that first fold right there on the edge as a guide to sew down. That's going to give me my whole line there. Sorry, sometimes my brain cannot think of words to use. It's going to give me the whole guide here all the way down to use to sew this section first, like this. Now, I wish I had some good explanations on how to do corners. I've actually not looked up too many things, and when I see things with binding, it's usually with quilts, and it's like the corners are the opposite ways. So like doing one this way was a little bit difficult. I use this stylist or awl, whatever you call it here, and I just kind of tried to get it to fold into like a triangle shape and to align that fabric back up here to follow the path. Like I said, I really wish I could give better explanation of how to do that. I don't know. I need to learn a little bit better, but for me, this is what I did, and it worked okay for me, and I was all right. It seemed fine for me how it looked, you know what I mean? I am not very particular. I've learned over my years of creating to not be as critical and as a perfectionist as I've always wanted to be, and try to enjoy the process more. So that's what I have learned to do. This corner is a little bit easier to do, so all the way down to the corner, and then you got to kind of create like a little V shape and fold it back over so that I can go back down the path. I often sometimes forget how to do things, so you'll see me like fidgeting here and redoing it and trying to figure it out as I go, because sometimes even though I figure something out sometimes, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I'll figure it out. I'm like, yes, I did it. But then I go to do it a second time and like, wait, how did I do that? Even if I've done it like 10 times, sometimes it just does not stick for whatever reason. So here's what it looks like after I figured out how to get it. And that corner works out all right when I do this. But the opposite way is a little bit more difficult. So I got to work on that technique, I think. So I think I got it down a little bit better. Let me see if I show it here, what I did. Because as I was doing it, I kind of felt like I was getting a little bit of a better feel for it. I still got to learn, but I wanted to show you guys just so you can see, because I know this is going to be difficult. I know it's going to be, because it was difficult for me too. So let's see what I did here. Yep, so I was trying to figure out how to fold it to create like a little V this way to get that fabric to line straight back up like that, to tuck it in. So that's what I did. That's what worked for me. So the harder part too was when I actually flipped it over on the other side. It was a little bit more bunched up, so I don't know if like cutting it or anything like that will help. I'm gonna have to do a dive and look and try to figure out. So here's what it looks like. So that side worked out okay. I liked that. I'm going to show you what it looked like when I flip it over too, because we got to sew the other side now after I get done doing this. But this is me doing it in real time. I like to be up close so you guys can see what I'm doing, kind of give you an idea. Like I said, I'm not perfect, not a professional, but like I think seeing it up close and seeing at work kind of will give you like, get those gears going to give you an idea, especially if you're not very familiar with these sort of things like me. I'm just kind of sharing my process as I do it, you guys, hoping that it helps you. So the point of the tree was a little bit easier for me. The only mistake I made was I think I need to go all the way down to the corner. I wasn't going all the way down to the corner. So that was giving a little bit, it wasn't the right amount. I got to figure that out a little bit better, but it was much easier to fold it this way, and that worked out good when I flipped it. All right, so here's what it looks like. I have all of it wrapped around and sewn down. I did not do the bottom because it's the same and it matched. I picked the fabric that matched, so it's the same, so I wasn't going to go over that bottom. So next I have to figure out how to get it to lay nice and neat and tuck it in and flip it over. And once I flip it over, I'm going to show you, we have that other folded side from when we ironed it. All right, using my clips here, and you can see how I have it folded. It's tucked underneath so that you have that folded edge, and then here is where it was more difficult. You see how what I mean? It had a lot of extra fabric right here, and I really don't know what I was supposed to do with it. I was tempted to kind of cut it and trim it, but all I did was kind of go in and kind of just bunch it and scrunch it up and fold it and kind of get it to how I liked it. I was a little different. Like I said, I wasn't like completely impressed with how I got it, but I think it worked well. Honestly, when you're doing these things, when you're up close, things are gonna like bug you more, but then when you take a step back, even with like the rug making, you're not going to see all those little tiny things, especially because you're so close, and then when you're far back, you just don't notice those things. So that's definitely something I've learned as I've created over the years. So I have it all ready. I have it all clipped so it's nice and secure, and then I can fidget with it as I'm sewing it. I'm just going to go all the way around and just do that stitching here. Using my little handy tool here just to kind of help me. I'm trying to get familiar with this and keep my fingers back. I'm learning, you guys, too, how to do things a little bit better, and I think we all can keep learning always as we're creating, right? So I'm taking my clips out here. I'm going to show you. I just go down to the ends here, and then I put my needle down and I just pivot it. And then I just keep doing that, working the fabric and kind of moving it as I need it, and making sure that like everything's staying secure and tucked in, because they do want to, when you're doing the binding, especially with like all these folds and stuff, it will kind of come untucked a little, so just keep attention to that. Just work it, try to keep it even. Now you could totally do a zigzag stitch to attach this too. I like that look. It's so cute because we're already using a zigzag stitch, so you could totally do that and add a zigzag stitch. You could totally use a thicker binding and just use the full jelly roll strip for it. But this is what it looks like. I think it turned out really good. Next, I'm doing a star. So I did all these little strips here. And I have my template and my pattern that I cut out and I traced. I used one full jelly roll strip for this, and I cut it into, I believe it was 7 even strips. And I'm going around and I added a stitch like this, and then I'm going to trim around the outside. So that's how I did my star. And then you could add ornaments, you could add all sorts of fun things, but this is what I decided to use, a pom-pom trim. And then it looks like Christmas lights. I absolutely love the way this came out. I was so excited about my jelly roll star. I will love everything jelly roll, and I hope you guys like this project, and I hope it was useful for you guys. This is so cute. I am totally keeping this. This is going to hang on my door. I absolutely love it. And all I used was a scrap and hot glued for the hook on the back. That's how I like to do it. Well, thank you for watching, you guys.